Good morning. Welcome to Jillily Studio. We're here working on our sewing bee quilt and we're on week 6. So how's it going? Have you been following along? I hope you're having good success. Be sure to leave any questions you have in the comments below. And you can join us anytime. If you want to get your kit, you just click on the link up above or down below and it will take you right to my website. We still have a few kits available. And you can purchase a kit and then you can go back and watch those videos anytime so that you can catch up. And it's pretty easy work, so I know you can do it. All right, so we are on week 6 and in our pattern it tells us that we are going to work on star E block. So I've got star E block on this page. This is page 6 and on the top of the page it tells you once again exactly what you need to create this block. So for one block I'm going to need 2 sets of 2-inch squares, so I'm going to use some blue and this cute black floral print, and these will be the center. This is the 4-patch that goes in the center, and then it calls for a set of 8 squares that are matching, and I've got those right here, and a set of rectangles, so rectangles in the print. And then of white, we need 12 white squares. So that's what we need to make one block. And once again, just to remind you, you can pull any fabrics that you like to make that work for your blocks. You're going to be making 9 of these. We'll just do 1 here on camera, and then you'll make 8 more. All right, so let's get started. This block starts by making this 4-patch, and I've already made a 4-patch right here. I've already sewn them together. You can see that. So let me slide these out of the way, and I want to remind you how I split my seams so that it could lay flatter. Let me pull the ironing board in here. So initially I sewed 2 squares together and the other 2 squares together, and then I put those 2 sets together to create the 4-patch. And then in order to press that seam, first of all, the seam between the 2 squares, I pressed towards the same fabric. So I pressed both of these toward the dark. I've got this one pressed toward the black, and over here this one's pressed toward the black. That way when I put them together, those seams match up nicely and kind of nest together so that you can have a good joint right there in the middle. It'll match exactly. So in order to split the seam, I've got my seam allowances are pressed, they're going counterclockwise. They're going to the left. This one down here is going to the right. So if I want to split this seam, I'm going to split it this way because I want to continue the counterclockwise rotation. So I'm going to slide my fingers just slide right down the seam allowance until I get to the center, and then just pop it. Just turn it the direction you want it to go, and that gives me a split seam. Now you can see it. Let me give it a press. So that I have this seam going this way, they're all going clockwise, counterclockwise around this block. And then I can press it from the top. And there's my cute little 4-patch with my split seams in the back. Okay, so that's our center. And then the side edges on this block are the double flying geese. Let's move these guys out of the way. So we need 4 of these. I've got another one right here that I have started. So I've added the white squares already. So I have to do white squares on each of these print rectangles, okay, and sew them just like we have been doing in the traditional flying geese. So you'll have a flying geese of a print with the white corners, and that's what I've got here, the print with the white corners. Then I've added my second corner triangle, and I'm going to sew that across this seam. Okay, so my seam line's going to go that way, not next to the seam. You don't want to repeat the same direction. You want to go across it. And we did this last week, so I'm just kind of reminding you. So let's go ahead and finish making the rest of these. Trim your seam allowance to about 1/4 inch. And then press this with the seam going toward the dark triangle. Okay, Now I can move these because I've got the rest of these done. So those go around our block, and make sure that you put the last triangle you added next to the center block, not like I just almost did with the white. You want the white on the outside edges. Okay, now those are ready, and on this block the corners are just solid white squares. So we're going to have 2 white squares there, and let me grab these 2 white squares here. So I'll start by sewing these on. I'm going to sew that right there and this on the other side. And I'm going to check to make sure I'm right in the center so that that will match up perfectly. And I can see that I'm stitching right across where those 2 stitching lines meet. We're a little bit shy toward the seam allowance so that it will open up nicely. Okay, and then we'll get ready to add the next one. We can take a peek at that and see how it did. Perfect. Okay, the next one. Make sure you've got your dark triangles toward the center block. I had that in the wrong position. Move that a little bit. Toward the center. Okay, now I need to put these corner squares on each end of the flying geese units. You guys are pros at this now because you've been doing a bunch of these with all of the same similar elements in each of these star blocks. Got a little extra. When you cut your pieces a long time ahead, you end up with a lot of little frayed edges. But those will be lost in the seam, so it doesn't matter. Okay, now I'll cut these apart. Just snap if you're doing the 8 remaining ones, chain those all together, and that makes it a little bit more efficient. Okay. Oh, whoops. Okay. My iron doesn't like to be turned off. It gets mad and leaks a little. Okay, there we go. Now that's ready to be put together. I just want to check and make sure that my point is going to be in the center. It looks great, so off we go. Nest those seams right next to each other. Okay, that block is done. Okay, I'm going to press this one out. So we'll just go this way. It's a good idea to press your seam flat first. Sometimes I don't remember to do that, but it helps. All right, I've trimmed up my block, and so block E is all done, and trimmed it to 6.5. Now, I told you before that mine are turning out a teeny tiny bit shy of 6.5, but I'm not going to worry about that because when I place it with my sashings, and we'll get to that on the last video, I'm going to just kind of lose that little bit that's missing in that sashing seam allowance. Okay, there's your block. You're going to go and make 8 more. Good luck to you, and I'll see you next week.